Okay, we are going to begin our study today with from Matthew 14, chapter 14, from verse 22 onwards. Okay, so this is an incident that takes place right after the feeding of the 5,000 takes place. If somebody can read 20, from 22 all the way to 33, please. 22 all the way to 33. Matthew 14.
వెంటనే ఆ జనసమూహములను తాను పంపివేయనంతలో తన శిష్యులు ధోని ఎక్కి తనకంటే ముందుగా అద్దరికి వెళ్ళవలనని ఆయన వారిని బలవంతం చేసెను. ఆయన ఆ జనసమూహములను పంపివేసి ప్రార్థన చేయుటకు ఏకాంతముగా కొండ ఎక్కిపోయి సాయంకాలమైనప్పుడు ఒంటరిగా ఉండెను. అప్పటికి ఆ దోణి దరికి దూరముగా నుండగా గాలి ఎదురైనందున అలల వలన కొట్టబడుచుండెను. రాత్రి 4వ జామున ఆయన సముద్రం మీద నడుచుచు వారి యొద్దకు వచ్చెను. ఆయన సముద్రం మీద నడుచుట శిష్యులు చూచి తొందరపడి భూతమని చెప్పుకొని భయము చేత కేకలు వేసిరి. వెంటనే యేసు ధైర్యము తెచ్చుకొనుడి, నేనే, భయపడకుడని వారితో చెప్పగా, పేతురు, ప్రభువా, నీవే అయితే నీళ్ల మీద నడిచి నీ యొద్దకు వచ్చుటకు నాకు సెలవిమ్మని ఆయనతో అనెను. ఆయన రమ్మనగానే పేతురు ధోని దిగి యేసునొద్దకు వెళ్ళుటకు నీళ్ల మీద నడచెను గాని గాలిని చూచి భయపడి మునిగిపోసాగి, ప్రభువా, నన్ను రక్షించుమని కేకలు వేసెను. వెంటనే యేసు చెయ్యి చాపి అతన్ని పట్టుకొని, అల్ప విశ్వాసి, ఎందుకు సందేహపడితివని అతనితో చెప్పెను. వారు ధోని ఎక్కినప్పుడు గాలి అణిగెను. అంతటా ధోనిలో ఉన్న వారు వచ్చి, నీవు నిజముగా దేవుని కుమారుడవని చెప్పి ఆయనకు మ్రొక్కిరి.
If we see what happened from the book of John, we notice in the feeding of the 5,000, right after finishing that, what did the people want to do? Someone turned to John 6. They were so inspired with what Jesus did. Only John records this. John chapter 6. Yeah, verses 15. Yeah, just verse 15. What did they want to do?
రాజుగా చేయుటకు వారు వచ్చి తనను బలవంతముగా పట్టుకొని పోవచ్చున్నారని యేసు ఎరిగి మరలా కొండకు ఒంటరిగా వెళ్ళెను.
So what were they trying to do? By force they were trying to take him and then make him pronounce him as king. Jesus knew, that these people did not understand my mission, and it would curtail and it would end my earthly ministry if I would allow this to happen. And so first thing, he had to disperse the crowd. So coming back now to Matthew, immediately Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go before him on the other side while he sent the multitudes away. So immediately he had to, even the disciples joined all the multitudes, and then they wanted to crown him as king, right? And so he first said, go get into the boat and go to the sea, to the other side. I will come later. And then when the disciples went, reluctantly they went, but they went obeying his command. And then Jesus sent the multitudes away, right? Jesus needed some lonely time in prayer. And so when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray, right? The Sea of Galilee is surrounded by several mountains. And so in one of those mountains, he went in order to pray. And so so when he was, he was praying, there were two things that he was praying for. He was praying to ask God to let him know the best way to reveal, the will of his Father and the nature of his mission to the people. But also he was praying for the disciples, because they were about to undergo a huge test of faith. And he wanted to help them recover from the disappointment and resentment that they just went through. You know, when Jesus sent them away and did not allow them to crown him as king, this created a lot of confusion and doubts, disappointment, discouraged in the minds of the disciples, because after the feeding of the 5,000, they were extremely elated and thought that, you know, how many people were there? About 20,000 people were there. What better occasion can we have, you know, than this to pronounce him as king? And so Jesus had to pray that they will overcome that. And then, now when the evening had come, he was alone there, but the boat was now in the midst of the sea, tossed by the waves, for the wind was contrary. This is another very strange thing, because in the evening, he sent them away, okay, into the boat. And here in the middle of the night, they're in the middle of the sea. You know, that lake, that Sea of Galilee it's not very big, right? It's more like a lake, a huge lake, of course, but going from one end to the middle usually takes only 1 hour. But it took the disciples 8 hours to get to the middle of the sea, right? Two reasons were there. Firstly, the wind was contrary. They were having headwinds, right? You know, when you want to sail, you want the wind behind you, not coming in the opposite direction. Otherwise, it makes it much harder for them to go. So they were facing a lot of headwinds. But another reason is because of this resentment and all these things, they did not go immediately when Jesus told them to go, right? They were there, they were still discussing, debating. Had they gone immediately when Jesus told them to go, they would have reached the point before the wind started, right? And so, you know, it is another lesson for us when we delay because of our own questions in our mind. And so another thing that we need to understand here when we see historical aspects of how Judas operated. By this time, Judas Iscariot was already part of the team of Jesus Christ, right? And it is quite likely that Judas played an important role in sowing seeds of doubt of why Jesus did not accept the crown of being king, right? And he may have been the cause also of that delay of these disciples not going immediately. And so right now they are there, completely confused, and now they have headwinds. And it took 8 hours for them. When you are rowing against the wind, is it easy or is it very hard work? It is very, very hard work. They're tired, they're toiling, and it is night. And so they reach the middle of the sea, and then what happens? And it was being tossed by the waves. Now, in the fourth watch of the night, you know, the Romans had these watches. Every watch was divided into 3 hours. 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. was the first watch of the night. 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. was the second watch. 12 a.m. to 3 p.m. was the third watch. And 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. was the fourth watch. So the 12 hours, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. were divided into 4 categories of 4 groups of 3 hours each. Each one was called a watch. So between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m., Jesus Christ went to them walking on the water. Now, Jesus Christ, having prayed for them, he had to confront these people. But Jesus employed different ways in order to test the faith and bring their faith back to where it was. Right now, their faith was faltering. They did not understand what is the mission of Jesus Christ. And so he healed so many people. They were with him. And so when he rejected that and sent them away, right now their hearts were really weak in faith. And so when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, Jesus Christ, of course, using his divine power, he walked on the sea in order to bring a lesson of faith to the disciples. They were troubled, saying it is a ghost, and they cried out for fear. Apparently, knowing by this, and if you even read certain ancient historical aspects of those Jewish times, they were believing in ghosts and spirits and all of that kind of thing. And so immediately their first reaction was what? This is probably a ghost, because, it's walking on water. And they feared. Their fear now increased, right? How much fear was there? They were first being tossed this way and that way and unable to control the boat. And now they see what they think is a ghost. And so now they're crying out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Be of good cheer, it is I, do not be afraid." Now they see the face of Jesus Christ and they hear his voice, right? And so now they know that it is Jesus Christ. But this faith,
Maybe they don't see it as it's still dark. But they heard his voice.
yes, they
So
heard.
they're still in doubt.
Correct. It is possible that, they only heard him. It is possible that there was a radiance around Jesus Christ, a light around Jesus Christ, for which they thought it was a ghost. And then so Jesus wanted to make himself visible to them, even if it was the night. So he went there, and then they first thought it was a ghost, but then they heard Jesus and saw him. Now, the next step is Peter, he was a fisherman, right? And he had certain natural leadership qualities. And so this is an example of faith in action, right? What does he say? "Lord, if it is you, command me to walk on water," right? Peter knew that it was Jesus Christ. 100% he knew it was Jesus Christ, because otherwise he would not have attempted anything like that, right? Even if it was somebody else saying, "Yes, come and walk on water," right? Would Peter would have done that if he wasn't sure that it was Jesus, right? Somebody just playing a joke on him and says, "Yeah, come." But the moment he puts it, he goes down, right? So he was 100% sure that it was Jesus Christ. But so what was he? It was not him doubting whether it is Jesus or not. He was seeking the approval of Jesus Christ for him to step out. He just wanted Jesus to be okay with that. And so in faith, Peter stepped out. The wind was still contrary. The boat was being tossed, right? The sea was rough. In that circumstance, he walked on water. It was the faith that he had that created buoyancy, that kept him afloat and was actually able to take steps in the water, which is otherwise scientifically not possible, right? It was absolutely his faith that made him achieve that. Now, what happened as he was going, his eyes were fixed upon Jesus Christ, right? He did not lose sight of Jesus Christ, and he looked at Jesus, and Jesus was still at a distance, and he was walking towards Jesus, never losing sight. But for a moment, he got distracted and thinking of the waves and everything that was going on, number one. And number two, wanted to see what his friends thought about, what his friends' reaction, fellow disciples' reaction was to him walking on water. He took his eyes off Jesus Christ, right? Looked at the tempest that is going on and then looked back at his friends. The moment he did that, when we lose sight of Jesus Christ, And then by then he brought his sight back to Jesus Christ. He could not see Jesus anymore. He was down between two waves, sinking, and now he could actually feel the troubled sea. Till now also the sea was troubled, but he could not feel it because his eyes were fixed upon Jesus. The moment his eyes went from Jesus to his own self or to others, then he started experiencing the trouble that was all around. You see, all the difference is, where is our focus in our daily life, right? And if we are fixed upon Jesus, knowing that he, even if it means we are walking on water, right, he will support us, and it is okay as long as we have fixed our eyes on Jesus. As even if you are trying the impossible, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, and that is what it is. But the moment we start looking at our own self, our own achievements, or what others think of our achievements, that is when in our faith we sink, because now self has overcome faith, and that is when he started to sink, to the point where, what was he saying? Lord, save me. Peter was a fisherman all his life. It is almost unimaginable that a fisherman would not know how to swim, right? He lived on the sea from the time he was born, right? His parents, possibly were also into that trade, and so he grew up there, right? Sea was nothing new to him. Swimming was nothing new to him, but it was not that he was struggling. There was only one thing. He knew that if it was not for Jesus, he would die. Can you imagine this situation? There was a man, a fisherman, who knew the sea so well, knows swimming so well, but feeling absolutely helpless in the water. That was the situation of Peter. I cannot do anything. I'm just unable to do anything. Lord, save me. That is the cry from the utmost. Jesus had to bring this situation in order to clean all those questions and doubts that these five people had in their mind and restore the faith in their souls, right, on Jesus and on his mission. And so what does Jesus do? Right? First, Jesus saves him, and immediately Jesus stretched out his hand, caught him, and said to him, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" Right? Here, when we have the Greek word that is used here, "why do you doubt," is what do you do when you have two ways in front of you, right? What choice do you make? Are you confused about the choices that are there in front of you, right? That is what Jesus Christ is implying here. Why do you doubt? Why are you unable to choose the right way when you can see everything, right? That is wisdom, in order to choose to do the right thing when we have options. Because Jesus himself said, you cannot serve two masters. And these people were in that situation where they partly believe Jesus Christ, but partly are confused about him and his mission, whether we should fully, commit ourselves to the discipleship of Jesus Christ. That was all going on in their minds. Why do you doubt? Right? Should I be completely and yield completely to Jesus Christ? Oh, you of little faith. And when they got into the boat, when Jesus and Peter got back into the boat, the wind ceased. Right? And so they were able to see that this was the hand of God. And when Jesus actually sent the disciples away, it was not just the disciples, there were others also. Right? Some of the people who were close to the disciples also traveled along with the disciples who also witnessed this incident. And then those who were in the boat came and worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." Disciples and a few more people. Right? Sometimes God brings trials and challenges, situations in our life to restore our faith in him. Right? And so sometimes we feel like we are sinking, but it all teaches us a lesson. At no point should we doubt God, right? He will come to our rescue. He will come to our rescue, right? And at this point, Peter is the first one that realized that there was nothing I could do to save myself. And so it was a sincere cry of a man who was about to die, "Lord, save me." For he knew it was only Jesus who could save him. And that is the situation in all of our life. When we set out in faith, but we falter, right? We seek God's help and God is ready to help us. But when we falter, that is what exactly happens to us, as it happened in the case of Peter. Having our eyes on Jesus in practicality, meaning that trusting him all along the way. Not giving up when things get tough, but always keeping our trust in him. Though at some times it might think like things are not going our way, but God is still in control. And we should not attempt to start A, trying our own things, or B, filled with pride about how things are going, that it is our own achievement. In both these cases, we will experience what Peter has experienced, going back low in our life. Amen?
Amen.
Yes, and then 34 to 36, please. Can somebody read? What happens? So now they come, they were in the sea in the fourth watch of the night, so it's getting morning. And so with Jesus Christ, the sea calmed, and then they were able to get to their destination. Basically, they came back to Capernaum, right? If you remember, they went from Capernaum to the other side, where this miracle took place, feeding the 5,000. Now they are coming back. Yes, please.
వారద్దరికి వెళ్లి గెన్నేసరతు దేశమునకు వచ్చిరి. అక్కడి జనులు ఆయనను గుర్తుపట్టి చుట్టుపట్లనున్న ఆ ప్రదేశం అంతటికి వర్తమానం పంపి రోగులనందరినీ ఆయన యొద్దకు తెప్పించి, వీరిని నీ వస్త్రపు చెంగు మాత్రము ముట్టనిమ్మని ఆయనను వేడుకొనిరి. ముట్టిన వారందరూ స్వస్థత నొందిరి.
Yes. So when they had come here, Jesus Christ was not given a day's rest. Everywhere that he went, already people were waiting for him to come back. They knew that when he went there, he's going to come back. Or when the men of that place recognized him, they sent out, the word spread all the surrounding region, and they brought everybody who was sick. And they begged him that the sick people, that they only touch the hem of his garment. You see how the faith of the people increased, right? Some people came, only for the reason of getting healed, because they heard, there is nothing wrong in going and trying, right? But many people genuinely believed that he is the Son of God and he actually has the power, right? And so I think if I just touch the hem of his garment, he doesn't need to spend time, he doesn't need to say anything. There is power even in the hem of his garment, right? In reality, the power was not in the hem of his garment. The power was where? In him. But what really healed them was their faith, right? The power of their own faith healed them. That is why your faith, coupled with divine power, brings in blessings and miracles, right? And so how many were healed? As many as touched it, they were made perfectly. Well, you can imagine how many people would have had the opportunity to touch. They're touched, they're healed, they're touched, they're healed. Thousands of people may have thronged just to touch the hem of the garment, and whatever the ailment they had, they were healed. This goes to show that as many as will have faith in Jesus Christ, they will be blessed. There is no limitation that Jesus Christ has this pool of blessing, that once it is over, then the next person who comes doesn't have anything, right? There is an unlimited source of power of healing, spiritual power, physical, whatever is your need. As many as ask will receive. As many as have faith will be blessed. As many as have trust, they will receive direction from God. Amen.
Mm.
So that brings us to the end of chapter number 14. Okay. We have only 14 more to go in
For
Matthew.
another year.
Okay. So we are at the midpoint of Matthew, right? I don't, do we have time for the 15th chapter, some part of it, or?
We'll do the question and if they have some.
Yes. You have any
questions or
thoughts on
thoughts
14,
what we already
or
discussed.
what you are feeling at the midpoint of Matthew?
Or are you thinking